and welcome to the third episode of Muilenburg's Moments. Today, I'd like to share with you the results of the challenge from last week. The challenge of me asking for short stories about a day in Mr. Muilenburg's classroom. I was happy with the turnout of the stories, but I've got to give a special shout out to one of my classes today, who by far wrote more stories than my other two classes combined. That core would be to Core 3. So thank you, Core 3, for doing the best in this week's challenge. Without further ado, let's get to the three winners. The first story that gets a spot on Muilenburg's Moments this week is one that actually made me laugh out loud. The basic premise is the main character shows up late to Mr. Muilenburg's class and is nervous that the teacher will get mad. So nervous, the student pushes a button on Mr. Muilenburg's back and he turns into a giant hairy monster who gets mad at late people. Luckily, the button is pushed again and the class is safe. The moral of the story, don't be late to my class. Story number two. I don't want to go into a lot of detail on this one because it seems to be a real story, just replaced with a different name of the main character. But let's just suffice it to say that it has a wonderful message of the power of mock trial in helping one's confidence, public speaking skills, and ability to connect with other students. Moral of that story would be to join mock trial next year, of course. And finally, I haven't done this yet in Muilenburg's Moments. I'm going to choose an overall winner this week, and that goes to the third story. This story gets the gold star, and this writer is the author of an essay about an easy bake oven. Yes, apparently in this story, I spent an entire class period making my class put together and teach me how to operate an easy bake oven for the sole purpose of showing it off to my twin daughters who were named Master Bakers. The story had a lot of realistic behaviors of students in that particular class, I won't go into names, and even brought Miss O into the story. Yes, I know you watch these shows, Miss O, so I know you're listening. Anyways, you brought her into the story as the savior who at the end tells Mr. Muilenburg that it's actually time for class to be over. Thus concludes the challenge portion of Mr. Muilenburg's Moment for the week. On to the dad joke. Picked out a great one for you this week. There you go. Last night I dreamt I was drowning in an ocean made out of orange soda. It took me a while to work out that it was just a Fanta sea. All right, as we come to a close in our third week of Muilenburg Moments, I wanted to also tell you each that it would be the last Muilenburg Moment, at least for a while. Because starting next week, you guys are going to have learning opportunities from each of your classes that you would have had if you were actually in the middle school building for class. For language arts, we're going to be starting with a version of what would have been our final major unit called conflict, which takes place in the civil rights movement in United States history, mostly in the 1950s and 1960s. I look forward to diving into this important part of the United States history with you, and I look forward to seeing many of you, hopefully, at my office hours, which will take place every Wednesday from 1 to 2 p.m. With that, I sign out on our last Muilenburg's Moment. Muilenburg out.